Let's go with these two guys. And the only thing I'll say and shut up for a while is that it enrages me that they got the wrong handcuffed to the wall when we come back to the resolution guys in the cabin.
Ha ha. Sloppy.
The different hand is cuffed to the wall because it's a different time.
It's the wrong fucking hand.
Yeah, but
you mean left or right?
It's the right hand in resolution. It is the left hand in endless. And I watched the commentary track and they never mention this.
Oh, funny.
Maybe they did it on purpose to fuck with you, Chris.
Also, that's a great commentary track.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
the commentary track on this movie fucking rules. Like, it's the two of them, and then it's the guy who plays the smiling guy, who's the one of the other producers on it, and it's a lot of them just making fun of each other because they're all friends. And then occasionally complimenting the other ones, and they're like, shut up, fuck you. Like,
well, I'm telling you, this one was, I think, 5 times better than the first one.
Oh God, it's
much better.
It is better.
I would like to watch the movie that they made between these two.
I'm gonna have to, I think,
because I'd like
Spring.
Yeah, Spring.
Is it related to this at all,
No.
or is it a different story?
No, it's completely different.
But this was a nice build on the original thing, and the original was like really hard to follow in terms of like, I think it was hampered by no budget. It was like, oh, these terrible things are happening, boo, and now they're all scared. And this one like shows stuff, and
they spend a significant portion of the beginning of the commentary discussing budget.
Yeah,
like,
they just need a small amount, and they got it, and it just works.
Mm-hmm.
There's some great creepy stuff in this film, like the 1, 2, 3 moons in the sky. No explanation. It's just there.
No, they do explain it. It's the 2 is the loop, and the 3 is ascension. Like, he specifically calls it out.
Well, yeah, it's a ticking clock, in other words, in the story. But there's no why, though. It's just there. And
no, I mean, it's explicit in the dialogue from the guy who leads the group. That you know, if you're asking for answers, what's his name?
Hal.
Yeah, Hal. Yeah. If you're for answers, then you're doing it wrong.
Yeah. And yeah, it's a great thing about this. It's like, it's a puzzle box. You don't have to answer these questions, but they show how this works so well that I was never felt lost. I loved the bit where that dude was in a tent, and it was like doing that fast recycle thing.
One of the creepiest bits.
Oh my God, that was great.
And then good blood cannon.
Good blood cannon on the window.
Yeah. And the other guy,
for eternity.
Yeah.
Right.
And it had this big mission in the middle of it. I had to go get this guy a gun so he could blow his own brains out. And that was kind of fun.
And that guy, I think, might be, I'm so glad it's not just a bunch of
Shitty Carl.
I'm glad there's just not a bunch of smiling cult members, because I did get a little tired of the smiling cult members.
Yeah.
But
they call themselves cult members.
Shitty Carl
stuff now.
distressed wife and Shitty Carl kind of broke up that
distressed wife of Mike from the first movie.
From the first movie.
Yeah. I know.
I wish I had known. I watched this movie first. This is my rewatch for you guys. I've seen this film before, but I
watched it right after I watched the first one.
I saw it before Resolution, so of course I didn't get all the callbacks from the first film.
Oh, I did.
Now I do.
I saw the first one. I was like a little annoyed by it because it's so opaque and cheap. This one was not. This one paid off really well. And
the acting is really good in this. Like,
I don't even think the 2 leads are that bad, honestly.
No, they actually worked on their stuff.
Justin is very good.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, there's a thing about
Aaron's a little more, but Justin is excellent in this. And then hearing how much they edited themselves out of this movie in a number of places, I think is very, very cool too.
Yeah. There's an aspect of like, these are a bunch of pasty young white guys making movies in San Diego County thing. It's kind of like a West.
There are no people of color in this. No.
There are, but I saw one person at the table.
It's like one person.
There's what's her name? Lisa.
It's like, it reminds me a bit of a John Irving novel where he always obsesses about wrestling and bears over and over again. And it's like, this is like obsesses about certain things over and over again. And
they are obsessive, but it's to their credit that they're obsessive, because they have a point of view and they have a style, and I think that's good.
Yeah. This is 2017, and I love that they're making fucking craft beer in the woods outside of San Diego. Like making craft beer in the woods outside of San Diego is the most like white guy fantasy from like 2017.
Right.
Like
Mhm.
that's so, and they do such a good job of the like, oh man, he's so good at making craft beer. And it's like, yeah, because he's been doing this for 50 years on a loop. Every 10 years he gets better at it.
Oh, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the camp folks are on the longest loop that we see.
10 years.
Right.
From the guy in the tent who's like 5 seconds, and everybody gets like a little bit more, and then the camp folks are on years.
When you
Right.
get
Okay,
out
so
to
how
the-
does it
when you
work?
get
Do
out to
they
the
remember?
trailer,
Do they
when you get out
remember
to
the previous loops?
Yeah,
I think
So it's like
well,
Groundhog Day for them.
It
Yes.
is. They know what's coming and they can't stop it. It always happens every time. Like that dude who shot himself. He just reset a couple of
Okay, then
it's because
if
your
there's the
death-
house from the first movie and the guys from the first movie,
They're on a
how
leash.
come they start the loop with "Hey, how you doing?" Like they don't know that it's repeating.
that's a fair question. You think that was just kind of like
my guess would be there's some disorientation when you first start the loop.
I'll give them that.
Okay.
because you're slipping into
Otherwise-
it. You're slipping in from linear time to loop time, and so over a
Right.
second you're like, hey, and then wait a second, oh shit.
Well,
here
probably
I
when
am.
the loop starts again, you start at sort of the same emotional place that you were at when you come into it, and then you react. Like that didn't bother me because I just felt like, yeah, I mean, time travel shit,
Sure.
like
You know what it makes me think of, Tad, is that great episode of The Next Generation where the Enterprise blows up every
Yes.
act break,
Yes.
and then they repeat the loop. And
Right.
after a while, it starts to dawn on them. It's like, wait a minute,
and then they use data. They use data to send
A message.
the message forward, and it can only be
Right.
like this much. Like
Yeah.
very good. That's a very good time mechanic where it has rules and it sticks to the rules through the
For
whole
sure.
thing.
For sure.
Well, no, it's kind of fits into a larger cosmology where there is this entity that can actually isolate small amounts of linear time and just do these
Well,
loops,
you
probably
see
for
it
his own
when they get
for his own
to the
amusement,
RV.
right? Basically,
When they get to the RV and they look back out over the valley, you
Mhm.
see the domes.
yeah, the domes,
And
yeah,
every one of those domes is a different time stream.
yeah,
Mhm.
and also see the birds flying around them, and that's
Mhm.
how he's making these wonderful holes in the sky.
Mhm.
It's sort of
great.
like it's almost
Mhm.
like the invisible cars in Atlanta. I don't
Mhm.
know if you've seen Atlanta, but like there's
Yeah.
this whole thing with invisible cars, and it's like it's that sort of boundary that you can't cross. Like you can't get outside of this area because if you do, then it breaks the continuity of the universe.
Yeah.
Which is what happens in this. They break the continuity of the universe.
Right.
Like they're like, no, we can't be here.
Oh,
You
so I have a
think-
question then. Another question. They escape at the end.
Do
Spoiler
they?
alert.
Yes.
Do they? Because you see the birds,
Uh-huh.
After
Bouncing
they-
off the barrier.
and then you see that weird ass crescent moon, which would never happen. The horns of a crescent moon never point down; they always point up.
Right.
And then this final scene, it's there. So
I
it's
think
not
that's
the normal
probably-
moon.
I think that's probably the UFO in front of the moon.
Maybe. But
Is there a UFO in this UFO cult movie?
Yeah.
Not really. You don't see anything. It's actually less revealed than
I
it is
mean,
in the
they
first
play
one.
tug of war with it.
That was kind of fun. That was a nice intro.
That is my favorite scene because it feels exactly like one of my dreams, and that buys a lot for me. That's when I decided I liked this movie the first time I
Also,
watched
you
it.
do the tug of war and the thing comes loose, and then you
The
later
rope
on, you
up
see
to the
you see
sky, and
reverse
everybody's
you see the
just
reverse
like-
angle an hour later.
Well, and he's like, Smiling Dan's up on a ladder over there.
Yeah.
Like, that's like Justin's explanation, and then he immediately loses to the alien.
Yeah, right.
Like he's just like, no, fuck you.
Yeah.
The thing
The
that
first guy ever to win using a fishing net knot.
Mhm. That's
what
right.
you guys haven't brought up, like, okay, I think I've seen this movie 3 times now because I watched it twice.
Wow.
First time because I was like, I wanted to like make sure I caught everything. But watching it the third time, other than the continuity issues, there's something about this movie on repeated viewings that really works for me, which is at the core, there's this theme of people trying to get control or agency over their own destiny, right? And it's from the guy who's in a tent who literally cannot, like, he's got 5 seconds, he's screwed, right?
He takes enough time to tell him to get out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eventually, because
I
it keeps
love-
cutting off.
Yeah.
Going back to Mike and the buddy in the cabin from the first movie, and you can see like they're just like all in on, we're going to figure out a way to get ourselves out of it through trial and error. But then running along the whole thing is the two brothers, and the younger brother is trying to sort of get out from under the thumb of his older brother. And I thought that all worked really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the shitty Carl, whatever his name is, all he wants is just to be able to like,
end it.
I'm going to be the one that chooses how this ends.
Because the death that you get from the entity is so much worse.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like that's why they're apologizing at the end of the first movie. It's like, what's about to happen to you is so much worse than if you got shot or burned to death in the cabin or whatever.
I think they plain old say that at one point in the
my
film.
hand.
Yeah.
They just plain old say it. Says this is what I just stick with the loops because.
And then there's some stuff that the cult leader says to the characters when you know what's going on. That sort of, you think he's sort of being oblique about it the first time you watch it, but on subsequent viewings you realize he's all but basically saying we're stuck in a fucking time loop and have to keep repeating things over and over and over again. You'll figure this out soon enough.
Right. That's fun.
And I also wonder if, like, for people like Anna who use the hallucinogen, the red flower hallucinogen, if much like my idea in the first one was that the French guy was the actual entity, like if that gives you some sort of larger perspective on what's happening. Like you have a greater view of the universe that you exist in because you sort of free your mind from its terrestrial boundaries, because as far as we know, this only grows in this area. Like this hallucinogen only exists, so it may be related to
what's going on,
the entity.
And
so you might get a greater understanding of what the rules are. And that was the reason I thought that he was the entity in the first one, and the reason I continue to still think he might be, is because his understanding of the rules of the universe is so much greater than anyone else's. And no one else in this movie besides Hal and Anna kind of have anything close to that level of understanding.
At least that it's articulated.
Right.
He may not be the entity, but he may, like you say, because of this hallucinogen, have the best understanding.
Right.
Well, that goes back to the Groundhog Day idea. Maybe he's been doing this so many times he knows how it all works.
He's J.K. Simmons in Palm Springs.
Yeah, exactly. But he's he's the guy who's been there so many times. There's no surprises left anymore.
I'll never see my kids grow up, but also I have to shoot you with this fucking crossbow.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a question.
The scene. Sorry, the scene.
Yeah, go.
Justin has to make a choice as to whether or not to tell Mike that he saw Mike's wife. And you can see he makes the call, I'm not going to say anything. I just hope you really get out of here. That's actually kind of heartbreaking if you think about it.
Yeah.
Then he sets the fucking house on fire.
Yeah.
Again. Oh.
Again.
The first time. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Well, no, because that seems like that might be the first time he's doing that.
They set the house on fire.
Right.
Well,
because he's like, are you ready to do this? Well, no,
Are
because he's like, are you ready to do this? Like he goes back in there and it's like, you can tell this is like, okay, we're on plan F. This is plan F.
Yeah. Wow.
It's absolutely the same set, right?
Yeah.
It's the same house.
Like it's the same set.
Okay, good enough.
So the
also,
first one,
a couple of slides back, Chris, you had that wonderful sculpture background behind you. Do you think those were like made for the film, or are they just some crazy person out in San Diego making these things?
They were made for the film.
Okay. Yeah, there's
that's CGI. That one behind Chris is CGI.
Because some of the stuff, some of the monumental sculptures, like the big dragon and things like that, were just really neat, and they really add a lot to the feel of the thing.
They built miniatures, and it was I think it's just After Effects. They said I watched a making of the first time I watched the whole thing because I got it on disc, and you get extra features.
Discs, they have extra crap on them. Exactly.
They just built these things and just like dropped them in.
Yeah,
in the
that's
wide
great.
shots.
It's great because it actually kind of really adds so much. I love the little markers being. I bet you they made a polyurethane foam and this sprayed
Those weird little anthill looking
little reverse
And
anthill
there's
looking
that
things.
great scene where the girl is following him and he goes through the markers, and there's like that scene where they're separated by the marker and they're both kind of like looking off.
Yeah, they can't see each other. It's the best. That's really.
I mean,
good.
it's filled with good ideas like that. This
Yeah.
movie, it's really
I'm
entertaining.
gonna put a pin in that. What's your name again?
Executes
John. That's right.
and
Yes, my name is
executes
John.
and executes on a lot of those good ideas. Like
But
I
Go ahead.
think the first movie had a lot of good ideas in it that it kind of failed to
It
execute
was
on.
really fully formed.
Right. This
Yeah.
one, like you get the Polaroid a couple of times, you get the videotapes twice, and you get the hard drive, and it pays all of those off really well in a way that I feel like the first movie didn't. Like there's too much shit going on in the first movie. It's a very much like throw everything at the wall and see what sticks.
Yep.
And what stuck is what they used in this one.
Well, also because
You know?
they had the budget, they could explain things visually.
And they got an editor.
And visually only.
Mm.
And that was like really, it was powerful. It's like that whole thing, the split mirror thing with the two moons. They never explain it. It's
Which
just
turned into
there.
eyes.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
fuck. It's great. Now, mind you, it's saying all that in terms of the tone of this thing, and this film was again a lot better than the first one because it had the budget and the skill. These guys must have gotten just better. at
Which is
telling
why
stories.
I really want to watch
There's,
Spring.
there's a weird equivalent of
Watch
like, man, you ever go to a bar and there's this really smart drunk guy there who's trying to tell a story or a movie he saw, and he's really trying hard, and you're trying to figure it out, and it's just looping all over the place.
I don't need to be called out like this, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Publicly,
I
right?
shouldn't reveal our sorted back, But anyway, but that's kind of like that a little bit. It's a little bit like the storytelling is a little overheated and insular and kind of cryptic, and I guess
But
that's
it's a
that kind of
cult.
it works in some ways and it doesn't work in others.
Mhm.
But mostly it's good because it's like I like a mystery, and this was as mysterious as hell. But there's a little bit of just rabid, kind of looping yourself. It's like these guys are so into their own
I
definitions.
think,
of
yeah,
things.
you have to buy in kind of like you have to buy in with David Lynch. It's like
Yeah,
you're just going to
exactly.
be like, oh, come on, bullshit.
Yeah.
Or you're going to sort of go with where he wants to go and
Well, David Lynch has this
live in
thing-
that world.
David
I don't
Lynch
have
has a
the-
thing where he kind of taps into the subconscious ideas and symbols that are almost like
Yeah.
Freudian or Jungian. But these guys have their own set. You can probably tell they have a big, thick book back at the production studio of all these ideas they have, and they're
They have their own set of personal
Yeah,
signifiers.
Well,
exactly.
it
They're-
starts,
they're
it
revealing a
starts
little
with
bit
a
at a time as they
Lovecraft.
go.
It starts with a Lovecraft quote. They're literally
Yeah.
like writing
Yeah.
their heart on their sleeve.
Yes,
for
exactly.
For this, it's like it's nice. It's nice to have a Lovecraftian story where you're not sitting there thinking, "Oh, who here is black people he hates?" You
Yeah, right.
know, like
No, this is the love. Like, there's an entity in the sky that's putting people in time loops for its own amusement.
to murder them
It could be
because it
Cthulhu, who
enjoys their
knows?
suffering.
Right. By the way, since the poster's now behind Chris for the second time tonight,
Huh?
great poster. This
Oh,
movie has a
man.
great poster.
Oh,
Yeah, it's good stuff.
also, it reminds me that there are really good colors in this movie at certain points.
Oh yeah,
The whole thing, what was this shot on, Scott?
it was mostly a red, but there's some
Okay.
other stuff with
Whatever lenses and or color grading they did, it's
Mhm.
creamy. This whole
Yeah, right.
movie it's not super sharp, but it looks cool.
Yeah, they got the red
Absolutely.
VV on this thing, so they actually get this nice deep. Better than the first one because it was shot with a DSLR, I think.
There's a lens that they use for a lot of the shots where when the camera's not moving, it looks okay, but it looks kind of super wide. It looks
Oh, no.
wide.
They're
But
using
then when they
they're
pan-
using ultra wide. That's the thing because this is one of
When
those-
they pan,
Uh-huh.
you are acutely aware that you're watching a picture. It's like you're in a camera obscura looking at a picture being projected onto a wall. It's absolutely fake looking.
No, it's barrel distortion. That's the thing. It's so wide. They're using rounds off the corners, like a
Mhm.
little bit. So when you pan, the whole thing barrel distorts as you go by, and it makes it
Yes,
it makes it look more unreal.
it's very weird.
Yeah,
Well, you can
it's a-
see it. You can see it in this shot because you
Yeah.
can see it coming in a little bit here
Uh-huh.
and a little
Uh-huh.
bit here. Like it's,
Right.
you can see it starting to fold in on itself.
It's like you're standing in a room watching it projected on a curved screen.
Right.
Right.
In fact, we might get
Mhm.
advantage of the fact that maybe these guys had a red to shoot it with, but
I
not
think
the
they're their own
best
DP, right?
lenses.
They should.
Because cheaper lenses have weird effects
I think
like
it was a
this.
friend of theirs.
Yes.
That's a good thing.
It is a good thing in this case. It's
Yeah,
absolutely the right choice.
Right.
Well,
So,
they change and like they change the color grading in this when he first comes up. So then when he comes back to it, it's immediately visually identifiable.
Mhm.
It's like, this isn't a different tent. This isn't a different place. Like this is the space that you were in, which
Yeah.
then clicks in with the time because there's a clock.
Hanging on the pole there.
Right.
oh, that might have been hanging a lantern on it, but you know what are you
A
gonna
little
do?
bit. A little bit.
Yeah, but then you get
Okay.
the great, but then you get the great cut of it flipping back and forth, and it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, that's cool. Like
Right before the tent, how cool was that bit where for some reason that big cargo container that's sitting there
pops.
just goes bang and
I know.
dust comes.
Well,
Why?
there's another.
Doesn't
Those.
need to be explained. Doesn't.
If I had more time, I would have tried to get a GIF of what happens right before this as he's walking up, because there's a tree that falls down in the
Oh
background.
yeah, that's weird
Ah,
too.
that's right.
All the way behind him in the background. You just
Yep.
see, and for a second I was like, is that a monster walking through and then it falls down and you get the boom of the tree
Right.
falling. But
Mhm.
it's
Yep.
like, it's very much a sort of like, is there a kaiju? Like, is this a kaiju movie?
It's an
Like,
invisible kaiju.
right.
Oh, is this the second one? Is there another one?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, it's Chris is rolling up to that, aren't you?
Chris is coming. We'll see that in 6 weeks.
There's,
right?
there's a next
Well,
installment. in this.
yeah. I mean, the only thing. I do want to see Spring real bad, but I will also throw out that I think John Synchronic.
That's the next one.
That's the movie where they were given not just more money but actual movie stars,
Yep.
Oh, okay.
because it's got Jamie Dornan from a number of things we've watched, and then
yeah.
Anthony Mackie from, like, he's Hawkman or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And that
And
one,
I don't know if that's a direct sequel. It feels
Oh,
like one of these.
they've got a wheelhouse that they play in.
Yeah.
Well,
And it's very similar thematically, but it's also there's a great, I mean, it's I don't want to give too much away, but I enjoyed the hell out of it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I thought it was good.
but there's
Alright.
also something in the dirt, and
Yeah,
something
that's
in
new
the,
one, the brand new one.
right, and
That
some-
might be a direct sequel.
something in the dirt is part of this universe.
Oh, okay.
okay. All right. That's I think in
So-
theaters still, or just coming out to streaming.
Yeah, it would
Mhm.
be. It should be coming because it was in theaters when we watched the last
okay,
one.
cool.
So
Very
in
curious.
6 weeks,
Well,
weeks,
considering
it
that
should
Justin's
be.
watching this, or he will, or he might
Yeah.
hear about it. We just gotta let him know. There it is.
No,
I'll tweet at him. He's following me.
I think these guys, I mean, I know Marvel got their mitts on them, and they did a few episodes of Loki and
Marvel got their mitts on.
Moon Knight. If Andor hadn't come out last year, Moon Knight would have been my favorite TV show that I watched.
There were a
last
couple
year.
episodes. I don't know which ones they did. I think they did toward the end of the couple toward the end of the series. But I think
You know, you could draw some parallels between Moon Knight and this film. There's
That's
a
one
lot
I
of-
didn't touch at all. I didn't even
Yeah.
try it. So,
Yeah,
you
there's-
guys
yeah.
recommending this to me?
I'm strongly recommending it.
I'm
Weirdly
glad
enough-
you guys like this.
Dude,
I wasn't
we're, I
sure.
think we're. I really. It's neat to watch filmmakers do their first film and kind of get the ideas going, then see it down the pike a bit, and they've really refined everything,
Mhm.
and they got more money, and it just you can see the ideas coming out better. You know what I mean?
Still-
It's,
still
it's
hiring-
exciting.
Still hiring your
About-
friends.
You know, it's like Evil Dead versus
Yeah.
Evil Dead 2. You know?
No.
Yeah. Good comparison.
I would say
It's-
Evil Dead. I would say Evil Dead. Actually, at this point, I would say Evil Dead versus Army of Darkness. Like I
Well,
feel
actually,
like,
A versus B versus C.
No,
How's
no, no.
that?
yeah,
Desperado versus El Mariachi,
Yeah.
yeah, sure.
which
Right.
is this like Evil Dead 2 to Evil Dead 1. I'm going to make the same movie again, just better this time.
Yeah, except he didn't
El
recast
Mariachi
everybody.
versus Desperado versus Once Upon a Time in Mexico, which I thought was really
Let's not-
spectacular.
I like Once Upon a Time in
I
Mexico.
love Once
It's
Upon
not
a
a
Time
bad.
in
It's
Mexico.
not a bad movie, but
Uh-huh.
it definitely loses the tone of
Well,
the
look,
first.
are you a
two.
Mexican or a Mexicant?
I'm definitely a Mexican.
Okay.
I like
I
the
look. I
gigantic-
look. Yes. I'm-
Hey, come
All
on.
right, let's see.
One to kill the chef who didn't make the
Oh,
good-
John! Oh my
Well,
God! You're like a
Scott,
wolf.
you are half Norwegian too.
Yeah,
So
okay, well that's coming through. All right, time
Yeah.
for thumbs. We're getting us some
Solid.
very good, very
yeah,
good, very
definite thumbs
interesting.
up. Definitely
All
I
the
did
thumbs.
not expect to like it as much as I did, and I really liked it.